Hello and welcome back to the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Ron Caroni. This week on the podcast, we are exploring the question of what age is the right age to start real estate investing. And I'll give you the answer. There is no right age. We're sitting down with Randall Haber, who started real estate investing much later in his life than most real estate investors who are interested in getting in the business start. A really fascinating conversation to touch on why someone should get into real estate investing and how age should not be a barrier for you. Hope you enjoy.
This is the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast, the show that highlights Saskatchewan real estate. Looking to buy your first house, your next investment property? Subscribe to never miss an episode. Here's your host, Ron Caroni.
Hello and welcome back to the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Ron Caroni. Here on the podcast, we love to touch on all things real estate and all things Saskatchewan. If that sounds like content that you could use more of, do us a favor and hit the like and subscribe button. This week, we're doing a little bit more of a real estate investing focused episode. And here to help me do that, our past guest, Randall Haber, coming all the way from Yorkton this morning. Good morning, Randall. How are you?
Good morning. Having a great day. How about you?
Awesome. Randall, you came on and described the reasons that someone should consider living in Yorkton. So just before we get into this episode, a big encouragement to anyone who is looking at investing in Saskatchewan real estate. Go check out that episode. Yorkton seemed like a really interesting market, and Randall's the perfect person to bounce questions off of. So just give us a quick background of yourself, Randall. I know the bulk of the interview is going to be kind of a dissecting of your real estate endeavors, but just quickly give us a little intro of yourself before we get into the questions.
Well, my name is Randall Haber. I was born and raised in rural Saskatchewan. I moved to Yorkton in 2000 after a couple of years working in a youth correctional facility in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. And then I relocated out here to take on a role, and it kind of morphed from there to meeting the woman who eventually became my wife and kind of setting roots in the city of Yorkton, Saskatchewan. And after 28 years of working in corrections, I was fortunate that I had positioned myself through my real estate portfolio to retire early from that job. And it's just to hit the ground running with taking on more roles in the real estate investing world.
Wonderful. So take us through what your real estate investing looks like now, and then we'll kind of go into the reasons why you got into real estate and kind of how it's been for you, pros and cons of investing. But just give us a snapshot of where your portfolio currently sits.
Sure. So currently, my wife and I have a portfolio, personally titled portfolio of 5 properties, not including my primary, within the local area of Yorkton, Saskatchewan. And that includes a 4-plex and a 5-plex. And then we also have a property down south, so south of the border in the United States. And then we also have a couple of apartment buildings we own with some partners. And so that's an 8-plex and a 12-plex. So that's 20 doors there. And then our current portfolio, again, is this 5 buildings, 13 doors, plus the one in the States. So it's a robust from residential and commercial residential.
What got you into real estate investing, Randall? And what was kind of the thing that spurred you on into saying, hey, I want to get more involved in this asset class?
This is where I like to give a good plug to my friend Derek, because he was a colleague of mine that I worked with for many years. And he started investing in the United States, actually. That was his first foray into real estate investing. And I listened to him tell me stories about this for years, 4 or 5 years. And finally, it was just like, why not me? I kind of had that epiphany, light bulb, poof, popped above my head. I was like, why not me? Like, I'm listening to this guy tell me all these stories and how it's creating financial freedom for him. And why am I not doing the same thing? So there was that whole why not me question. And that's kind of what started. And this was in 2016 when that aha moment kind of occurred. And at that point in time is when I took the first step into real estate investing.
What was that first step, Randall? What was the thing what was your next step after saying, all right, I'm going to do this? What were the following pathways that you took?
Well, it was a very unorthodox pathway because generally speaking, I think most people start in their own backyard, so to speak. They'll invest, they'll acquire a property in the community in which they live. They know, they understand. But for me and my wife, it's very unorthodox. We immediately looked south of the border. We were looking in the state of Florida, where we had visited many times and liked the state. So we liked the weather. It just seemed a natural fit that's where we would look when we first looked south of the border. So strangely enough, rather than looking in my own backyard, down in the United States, we looked in Florida and we looked in South Carolina, and we kind of eventually kind of geographically kind of followed a few road pathways and ended up in the state of Georgia. And that's where we acquired our first property in 2016. Being the very unorthodox manner, it was like, okay, now how do we make that happen? Because it's different rules. It's not easy in comparison to how it would be locally in the country in which you live. And then after that, we acquired properties. 2.5 years later, we started buying locally.
Did you have a clear path of where you wanted to go with real estate investing, Randall, at the very beginning? Did you say, I want to, have X many properties in this many years? What was the business plan when you first started?
There wasn't. There was no business plan. All I knew is I wanted real estate properties. I knew it would create the opportunity for me to achieve financial freedom, perhaps faster than the trajectory I was currently on. But was there a written plan? Absolutely not. It's just jump in and do it and kind of learn on the fly. And you learn a lot on the fly for sure. Maybe not the best strategy, but that's the way it was.
How did that morph, Randall? Is that still the strategy now that you're just kind of like, oh, like what comes up will go? Or has it really turned into a little bit more pointed focus of where you're headed?
As far as acquiring properties and creating like a portfolio, it's much more focused and directed towards the acquisition of 100 doors. That was something we put together 2019 is that we would establish or 2021, sorry, that we had 100 doors by January of 2026. So we had really at that point in time we established a vision because we got some good coaching that said what you need to do is you need to have a vision, and from there you need to have a plan how you're going to get there. So when we started, we didn't have that vision, and now we have that vision. And then on top of that, I'm also working towards
if I can pry into
certification. So
yeah, if I can pry into it, Randall, was it that 100 doors is a nice number, or is there a financial tie to that? 100 doors equals X amount of income, and that's the income that we would like to make. Or is it more of a numbers thing to say, I would like to just have 100 doors? Can you walk us through how your financial freedom math was calculated there?
Yeah, it was kind of like reverse engineering, so to speak. It was like we needed to replace my income at the time and my wife's income so that we could both be quote unquote financially free and kind of choose from that point on. Because we figured we would need $10,000 of income, cash flow. To get that $10,000 cash flow, let's be conservative. 100 doors, $100 per door cash flow, and that would translate into $10,000 cash flow. So it's kind of reverse engineering. Here's what we need in terms of income. Here's how many doors at conservative $100 we would need to get there.
So you're kind of answering this as we go through, but I have written down here, how has the decision of real estate investing changed your life and perspective? And so has it been more that like, oh, it's a little bit more easy to say, to replace our incomes, we need to have the math just becomes a little more easy? Or what about real estate investing has changed for you from the beginning until now?
Great question. And it's something that I think about quite often is like, am I on the trajectory of where I want to go? But currently what does it create more options for us? It created a different way of accomplishing financial freedom in a way that I never envisioned before. It pushed me outside my comfort zone, because to do something different than what you always done and to think differently than what you always have, which for me was more of a scarcity mindset than an abundance mindset, is you need to push outside that zone. And this pushed me outside that zone because I was totally comfortable just squirreling my money away every month in a pension and an RSP, just like everybody says you should do, and the way to do it. But that is the long burn. And generally speaking, most people don't access those funds until they're 60, 65, 70. And I didn't want to wait that long. And so this was a way of getting there faster, but I had to change my thinking in order to do that. So it changed my life in terms of not being comfortable, but trying to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
You might have answered it within that, but what would you say is the biggest benefit of real estate investing that you've seen in your life?
The biggest benefit of real estate investing for me is that it's a hard asset. It's like when you put your money into, say, like a mutual fund or a GIC, a stock bond, whatever it is, like you can't see it. It doesn't really, it's just a figment of someone's imagination, really. But when you acquire real estate, you have a hard asset. And those hard assets in that fashion, that real estate asset class or that investment asset class tends to almost appreciate every single year. And so you have that steady appreciation of that hard asset. And if you are starting like most people do, which is you acquire properties on your own, well, you have control of that investment. Whereas you put that money into a mutual fund or a stock or whatever, you basically are giving up that control to a financial planner who may or may not have your best interest in mind. And then they're putting that money into a fund that someone else is managing, right? So it's kind of 2 or 3, 4, 5 times removed. Where in this case, it's like I buy that property, my wife buys that property, well, we own it, we run it, we operate it, we have control. So that's the one thing that I like about real estate investing in relation to other investment asset classes.
What would you say is the biggest negative of real estate investing? I know we love to touch on the positives of real estate investing because it obviously can be a really good way for people to build wealth in a long-term fashion and have a roof over their head. But if we were to say, what is the biggest negative that you've encountered about real estate investing, what would it be?
Well, here's where it's a little contradictory in what I just said. Because if you want to grow a real estate portfolio, you're going to end up to a point in time where you really can no longer do it on your own. Therefore, you need to partner up with other people. And when you do that, you are going to give up an element of that control. So really, truth be told, anytime you invest in anything, whether the money is in any of those previous investment vehicles or not, if you are going to partner up with people in real estate, then you're going to be giving up control again. So really in the end, it's the biggest negative would be that you're giving up control of the money, putting it in the hands of others. But at least if you've done things correctly and you've realized and you've untapped the power of partnerships, then it's still a far beneficial opportunity than it is if you put that money into mutual funds, because generally speaking, you are going to know who that partner is. You've had conversations with that partner, you've vetted that partner, you've had these conversations with them, ideally speaking, of course. And so it's less of a negative than say putting it in those other funds. So, but definitely still have to get out of control. But this is if you want to invest passively, right? So if you're actively invested in real estate, like you own that property, right? You're running the deal, you're doing all that stuff. Passively, you're taking your money and you're putting it in someone else's deal. And when you do that, you're going to give up some element of control.
If I can add one to this, Randall, I think what a lot of people miss about real estate investing is we kind of call it real estate investing, but it's really you're taking on a real estate business. And in a lot of ways, people have an idea that they're going to just be able to buy the home. And there's this idea that just like a stock performs, you buy it, you get your 10% return. There's no issues along the ways. There's not a lot of learning and it's easy. And I find those are the people who have a tough time with real estate investing because they don't treat it like a business. But you very much are taking that personal responsibility and starting to run a business when you real estate invest. Is that something you'd agree with, or is there any clarifications that you'd like to add on that?
Oh, I definitely agree with you on 100%. And if you come from a background like me, corrections for 28 years and zero business experience, and I'm starting a real estate investing business, even if it's my own portfolio, it's still a business that I have to manage and run. You have to understand the numbers. You have to, look at your pros and cons, have risk mitigation analyses, and understand profit and loss statements. And those are things that I've had to learn. And it's you're basically starting from scratch and having to learn that. So, but then running that business is definitely going to be a challenge if you've never run a business before.
All right. And now the number one piece of advice that if you could go back to Randall before he started real estate investing, what piece of advice would you give to him for future success, just in general? What would you say to younger Randall?
Well, if you're thinking of the much younger Randall, 20, 30 years ago, I'd say don't wait till you're 46 years old to get involved in real estate investing. Because you just think of how much bigger that portfolio would look today in comparison to what it is in reality. But going back to when I first started investing in real estate, really the key for me now, if I would have been telling myself then, is know why you want to do this in the first place. Then figure out once you know your why, or what needs to happen next. So what are the steps involved, and who can help me get there? So it's not so much about how to get there, because there's already somebody that's done it. They can teach you the how. It's finding the who's already done the how, if you know what I mean. So who, not how, kind of the philosophy. So it would be, what do I want to accomplish? Why do I want to accomplish it? So a very, very strong why, and who is going to help me get there. And that then circles back to the power of partnerships. Connecting with people that have done it.
And a last one here, Randall. If you are speaking to someone else out there who is a little bit later in life, they're 40, they're 50, they feel this ship has sailed, what would you say to them? A person who's not 20 or 30, who's, full of a ton of energy and excitement about real estate investing, what would you say to an older person who is thinking about real estate investing?
The first thing I'd say to that person is why, or the question I would ask them is, why do you want to do this? And understand what's their motivation for having this conversation in the first place. And then I would, from there, dig a little deeper into what are some of the things they're trying to accomplish after they know what they want. How would you accomplish it? And I would share with them how I've done it. I'd say, this isn't necessarily may not be the best way to do it, because maybe there's other better ways to do it later in life, but this is how I did it. And if you think it makes sense with you, well then, feel free to follow my process, even though it was kind of loosely defined at the time. But I would say, don't hesitate to take action, because if you're at that age in life and you wonder, like maybe it's a midlife crisis, who knows? But if you're thinking of doing it, there's a reason why, right? Something has triggered you, whether it's an external motivator, or whether it's an intrinsic motivator, or whether it was influenced by a negative situation, whatever the case may be. Now that you're thinking about it, what is the next step you need to take? So why do you want to do it? And then let's take some action. And then I'd say, connect yourself with some kind of real estate investing program. Research them. Don't just jump the first one you see. Get yourself a coach who's going to poke and prod you and kind of get you to take that big first step. Or maybe it's the next step, because the big first step was getting the coaching. Next, third or fourth step to jump right in and get that first property under your belt.
Wonderful. Thanks so much.
Don't hesitate. Take action.
I love it. If someone wants to get more involved, or if they want to get in contact with you, Randall, please tell us about the different ways of getting in touch with you, and just anything you'd like to add here at the end, if you'd like to promote anything.
Sure. Well, the easiest way to get in contact with me, if you already know me, is just, give me a call or a text. If you want to get to know me and you don't know yet, just go Facebook, and then you can just shoot me a message in that fashion, and then I will follow up with you, and we could, start a conversation. I also have a company, Ralex Enterprises, so you can go on to Facebook, RALEX Enterprises, Ralex Enterprises. That's my wife and I, and you can kind of follow us there. And I also administer a local real estate investment group called the Yorkton Real Estate Investment Club, and we do monthly face-to-face meetups, so people can also reach out in that fashion, drop by, and meet that fashion too. So you can call me directly or text if you already know me. We can do Facebook Messenger. You can find our company and do it that fashion, or just pop in when we have our Yorkton Real Estate Investment Club. Find us on Facebook, join, and kind of follow along.
I had the pleasure of attending one of those real estate groups, and just a really fantastic group of local people who really, are on the grassroots of real estate investing, and it was a real pleasure to go and speak there. So I can highly recommend that group if you are in the Yorkton area to make it out to one of those meetings. Thank you so much, Randall, for coming on today and sharing your story a little bit more in depth and offering some of that wonderful advice. Really appreciate your insight as always. So once again, thank you very much for coming on.
Yes, you're welcome, and I hope your listeners find some value in our conversation.
Absolutely. Take care, Randall.
Yeah, you as well.
Thanks for checking out this episode of the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast. I hope you enjoyed it and found some value here. If you did, like this video and subscribe to never miss our weekly episodes. If you're looking for more information on real estate investing in Saskatchewan, please check out more videos on this channel, and better yet, get in contact with me by using the show notes of this video or audio podcast. I'd be happy to answer any questions or get you started on a pre-approval. Until next week, my name is Ron Caroni, your Saskatchewan mortgage professional. Bye for now.